Hello, and welcome back to the spoilerCast, the show we talk about movies and we don't care about spoiling them. And I didn't have a catchy intro for this one. I wanted to do it like in Icelandic or something, but I just thought of that now, so I didn't have anything prepared.
Also, Icelandic is very difficult to learn, so...
Yeah, but I mean, you could just say it like phonetically. That's what... First of all, my name is Tobias. With me as always is my sister and trusted co-host Rebecca.
Hello.
Hello, and in this episode, we are of course talking about the new movie from visionary director Robert Eggers, The Northman. Which is
why did you say that sarcastically?
Because it's kind of... Well, we'll get to that. We briefly mentioned marketing before this.
Oh, yeah.
Before we start recording. And that's one of the ways they have marketed this. It's from visionary director. I'm not saying he's not visionary, but we'll get to that.
Yeah,
however, okay. I would just quickly going back to my no thought intro that I got the idea just as we started recording that I should have done some fun intro like I did with There Will Be Blood, which you can listen to on our patreon.com/don'tmakeascene, where we release an extra episode every week for our paying audience. And we've been doing a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson movies lately, so if you want to check that out, there are links everywhere. And of course, Please Don't Make a Scene. No, patreon.com/Please Don't Make a Scene. Anyway, yes. I was just gonna say, learning the language would be hard, but I've never had any particular trouble just faking, the pronunciation.
I guess not.
I don't have to understand the language. I just sound like they do in that country,
I suppose. I don't know about Icelandic though, but yeah, I can fake French and Spanish and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not too hard.
It's not too hard. As long as you just learn the words phonetically, it's fine, I think. Anyway,
I guess.
So I could have done it, but I thought of it right as I pressed record, so I didn't have time. Anyway.
Instead we got this intro.
Yes. But we're talking about The Northman. We saw it yesterday. It's
if you don't know, we're Swedish, so this is... historically close to home, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not gonna say I'm like an expert or anything, but I've dabbled in Viking lore and Viking history.
Oh
I
yeah,
find it very exciting, and it's
very
part of our heritage, basically.
Yeah.
So we were both very pumped, also because of Robert Eggers. I think we both love The Witch.
Oh yes. Fantastic movie.
Have you seen The Lighthouse?
No, I watched a couple of clips just before today, because I had I need to at least see, because people are talking about that one being fantastic as well. But what is it? So I watched a couple of clips and I found that one where Willem Dafoe and what's his name, Robert Pattinson, are arguing over the food, the cooking.
Yeah.
And Robert goes, "If I had a bloody steak." That scene,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say the rest. I was like, wait,
sure.
What the fuck? They sound like a married couple. What is this movie?
And what that movie is, that's basically what the movie is about.
In the Lighthouse.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that one because I thought all the thematic stuff was fine, what it's about, not the story but the themes, or not the plot but the story. I mean, I just thought that the surface level plot was pointless and poorly told. And if the movie's just themes and story, then it's not that interesting. There still needs to be a plot.
Luckily,
like the
Northman has a plot.
And like the Northman, it has a very almost I don't know what you call it, arrow-like,
straightforward.
Straightforward.
Straight as arrow.
Plot.
Straight as an arrow.
Straight as arrow. As an arrow. Yeah, exactly. But there are a lot of themes and imagery.
Yes.
Beneath that, so I definitely appreciated that more than I did in The Lighthouse. But yeah, so the plot is very simple.
It's a very known plot. We have
it's a classic revenge tale.
Also that, but we have so many movies based on this particular story that this one is based on. We have historical, very celebrated stories based on this plot. I mean, Hamlet is based on this.
Exactly. Well, that's not historical.
I suppose, but I mean, what's his name?
It's
Shakespeare is historical.
Yeah, no, it's not.
He's old.
Historical
he's dead.
is when it's based on history.
Oh, you mean what I mean? You know what I mean?
You mean classic?
Yeah, whatever.
Old.
Shut up.
Historical is based on reality.
History.
No, history is reality.
Well, yeah. Whatever. Shut up.
Hamlet.
Never mind. You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Thank you.
It's and it's a classic. Almost down to like a deconstructed like hero's journey.
Yes.
Where he even at one point walks into a dark, shadowy place and fights himself to gain the power to defeat his enemies. It's like, hello, Luke Skywalker.
Yes, I wanted to mention that too. There are a couple of similarities to Star Wars.
There are a lot, because that's also a very, very classical hero's journey.
No, but even like visually, there's a couple of very looking like Star Wars style things. That one is one of them.
We'll get to that, but we should do the formula right.
Yes, sorry.
First of all, what was your expectations going into this? We usually don't talk about that, actually. We used to before.
Well, I hadn't seen too much before. I didn't check out too many trailers. I didn't check out any I saw the posters, can't really avoid that.
Yeah.
I didn't have much of an expectation. I mean, Vikings are always Vikings.
Yeah.
I guess I assume I'm gonna have a Viking story.
Yeah.
More or less. I assume there would be gritty and muddy and just dirty stuff and lots of blood and killing and people going berserk. Literally.
Yeah. Literally in this one, yeah. And now having seen it and having had time to think about it. Yeah, digest it. Because that was... We were planning on recording this yesterday, but as we were walking out, you were like, I need some time to think about this.
Yeah.
Now having had about 9 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, something like that.
I've slept on it.
Yeah, you slept on it. What did you think of the movie?
I'm slightly disappointed. But it doesn't mean it's yes, but it doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It's still a very good movie, but it's I thought it could have been more.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
And I think people are going to hate me if this ever blows up on one particular thing, which is
don't. Just say it, but don't say it.
I thought most of the actors that are such big names did not work in these roles.
What? Okay. Yeah. Anyone in particular?
Well, the king and queen specifically.
Aurvandil or the
yeah, Aurvandil. I did not
king.
like Ethan Hawke and Nicole Kidman in this movie at all.
What? Okay, I do not agree. But do you have any arguments? Any arguments for it?
I don't know. First of all, I guess Ethan Hawke didn't get enough time to prove himself to me, I suppose.
Yeah, because we all know he's the father in the story, so he gets killed. Yeah. There's no spoiler, but it's very early on. I think he's in 15 minutes maybe of the movie. Yeah,
so maybe it would have been better if he had more time to be a character. But what little we saw of him, nothing special. Anyone could have done it, and I think they put too much weight on his name and put him in such a small part. It's why? Give him either more to do, or just don't cast him in something like that.
Well, this is a going back to marketing. This is first of all, I don't agree. I thought he was great, not amazing because he didn't have enough time to be amazing.
No.
Very, very few actors can be amazing in such a small amount of time. I think the only one who's ever done that, at least that I've seen, is Michael Shannon in Revolutionary Road. He's in 2 scenes, and he steals the entire movie. Okay. But anyway, I thought he was fucking great. Same thing with Nicole Kidman. Same thing with everyone in this movie. Because that they fully committed to the characters. They were maybe not Anya Taylor-Joy, but she was still good. But also her role was a bit more subdued.
Yeah.
Except for the very end, I suppose. They all had that. I've been talking a lot about it lately on my other podcast, Madness in the Method, where we talk about Nicolas Cage movies. And as we've now gone through like the first 20 years of his career, we're seeing a pattern, we're starting to recognize stuff, and we're discovering things about him as a performer more than an actor. And that he like fully, like 110% commits to the character and brings his energy to it. And I thought, in this movie, in The Northman, especially Ethan Hawke, actually, because of what little time he had, he fully committed to the part of King Aurvandil.
Sure.
He just fucking. How many times have you seen? I guess he's not a big Hollywood star anymore, but he's Ethan Hawke. How often do you just see them stripped down into a loincloth, run around and bark like dogs, and around a fire? Like
that scene 100% was great.
Committed to it.
It's the rest of it. That scene was perfect.
That's most of what he does in the movie.
Sure, but
that's
like
his big scene and his death scene.
But the death scene I didn't like it. It didn't feel convincing to me. I don't know.
Anyway, sure.
And also Nicole Kidman, same thing there. I don't know. It felt like whenever she had the chance, she would either try to outplay everyone else.
Well, she is Nicole Kidman, so.
Yeah,
she has a little bit of that in her.
She shouldn't. Not in that role. But she felt like she was trying. It felt like she was trying to steal the spotlight, basically. And it's like, but that ruins it to me, because you're the queen. You're specifically, if I remember correctly, that Viking queen should have been a little bit more subdued, because she was supposed to be English, and they usually try to take a step back when they're in the Viking lands.
Well, yeah, but that was the whole part of her character. Like, she like from the start, long before we knew it, she was like scheming and she was conniving and she was deceitful. It was part of her character.
We didn't know that.
She was speaking of like themes of vengeance. She had been plotting revenge for like years. Spoilers, I guess.
Well,
in
not
the
really.
spoilercast.
Again, the story is pretty straightforward, similar to everything you've ever seen regarding Hamlet. So
yeah, well, honestly, I've never completely watched or read Hamlet, so I didn't know all the beats. I knew the basic plot, and I could tell, the classic revenge plot, the classic hero's journey plot, but I don't know. Is that what happens in Hamlet?
The versions I've seen, yes.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's 100% the Hamlet thing, or if it's just the Hamlet thing.
The original it says it's not an Icelandic Edda or saga from the beginning. The oldest version is actually like I don't remember who wrote it, but there's a Latin story by someone called Saxo who wrote down the story.
But he's Danish.
He's Danish. Oh, okay, he's Danish. The story is very different, because I read up on the original quote-unquote story about Amleth, or Ambuluth, or whatever they called him back then.
I think Amled, almost.
Yeah,
the
something
TH
like that.
Isn't a thing.
No, it's not really. Well, sort of. And the story is very different. It's
not Thor.
Because it's a story told before we had the classic hero's journey.
Yes.
Stories before that formula are very different from how we tell stories nowadays.
Yes.
It would actually be fun to watch a movie just fully commit to an old story like that.
You'd have magical creatures and things that people are just making up.
Well, not just that, but that there's not like, the hero dies halfway through the story, and then it's about his mom trying to fix up his incestuous sister with the King of England, and you're like, wait, what? Stuff like that. It's kind of like, honestly, the closest we have nowadays, I guess, would be Game of Thrones. Because it's never what you quite expect. Everyone dies. Everyone's an asshole. Even the good guys are kind of bad.
Keep track of where you're going, because everyone's all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. But this, however, they streamlined it and just made it into a straight-up hero's journey. and classic revenge tale. I guess to say what I thought about it.
Yeah, what did you think? First off, what were your expectations? Like you asked me.
My expectations were pretty high. First of all, because I like Robert Eggers as a director. I think he definitely has a style. And he's done 2 very good movies before this. And now he was like getting into more like blockbuster territory almost.
Right, he only did The Witch and The Lighthouse before this, and then a couple of shorts.
Yeah. Huh. So I was excited for that, but then I heard people, and I erroneously thought this was an A24 production, which it is not.
Oh yeah,
he's worked with A24 both times before, but this wasn't. I understand now why, but
yes,
I didn't think of it at first. But people were. I saw someone on Twitter like a couple of days before we were going to see it. Someone was like, "Oh, it's like a mix of The Gladiator and The Green Knight," and I was like, "Oh, fuck," because they were the trailers were selling it as the classic revenge tale.
Yeah,
but I was like, "Oh no, they're going to deconstruct it and like view it through this modern lens, and it's going to be all like bullshit and disrespect the source material, so to speak."
I guess there is a couple of like similarities to The Green Knight with some visuals, but that's
visuals, yes, but thematically, no, not at all.
No,
visually, that's the only thing. It took the visuals from The Green Knight, but it's similar.
Yeah.
But having seen it now, I am elated. I thought it was fucking amazing. I'm not sure if it's like a 5 out of 5 or a 4.5 out of 5. At first I gave it 4.5 because I can't give it a 5, but then later last night I was like, no, it's a 5. I can't really choose. I don't know if this is the best movie I've seen all year, or if it's just below that. I can tell you this. I loved every second of it. Every moment of it.
This movie is a little bit more up your alley than mine, though.
Yes.
This is Conan the Barbarian, North
very
style.
much Conan the Barbarian, which we'll talk more about in our Patreon episode on Monday.
Yes.
Check that out. Yeah. Rebecca's watching Conan the Barbarian for the first time.
No, I've seen it.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, you've made me watch it.
Yeah, but that must have been a long time ago.
Yes, but more on that on Monday.
Yes.
In general, this movie is a good movie, obviously. Like, you can't deny that. It's visually striking. When you look up some of the technical aspects of how they made the movie, it adds, obviously, points, because apparently there was only, like, one main camera.
Yeah.
Or, like, one camera at all, probably.
Well, they had one.
I mean, there's always.
They didn't have like a second unit filming stuff. No. Robert Eggers shot everything with his director of cinematography.
So like, there's craft behind this movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, the lighting is fantastic. The authenticity in the music, because they only used proper Norse instruments.
Yeah.
And the singing that they added, also fantastic. The elements of the movie, obviously, very, very true to historically, I think, from what I know, at least.
Yeah, from what I know, and what I've read a little bit, it's pretty accurate. That's a thing with Robert Eggers. He likes things to be accurate.
And I mean, apparently both him and Skarsgård have had this idea for like 10 years.
Yeah, I know that.
Sort of separately, but also together.
Alexander Skarsgård has, like, he's wanted to make a Viking movie for a very, very long time, like 20 years or something. But he never had, like, a script or anything or an idea, just that he wanted to be a Viking in a movie,
I guess True Blood didn't really satisfy that hunger.
True Blood.
Yeah, but he's still not a Viking, he's just, he is a Viking.
An old vampire.
Who's been living in the modern ages for too long.
Yeah. And then Robert Eggers had plans on doing a version of this story.
Yeah.
Basically. And I was like, let's mash the two together. And they made this.
Yes. And we should add that they incorporated the writer, I don't know how to pronounce his name, the same dude who wrote Lamb.
I'm pretty sure it's Sjön. Just Sjön.
Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, Lake.
Lake. Yeah.
Like Lake. So
yeah, because he's
Icelandic.
He's Icelandic, and he's more well known there. He's like an author and poet, and I guess a bit of a musician as well.
And they also utilized a couple of historians and properly taught people about this stuff. They fact checked stuff with people who are actually studying this. So the authenticity felt pretty good, actually.
Yeah, and like I said, that's what Robert Eggers does, because he's very he's very careful with doing a lot of research and like getting himself like involved in like the history and everything, because that's the only way he mentioned somewhere that's the only way he can tell the story as authentically as possible, because he hasn't lived it, of course. Like any of his movies, he was born in the 80s, I think. Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
He couldn't have lived during the the Puritan times in The Witch or the Viking era of Iceland and the Nordic countries. But as much as he can, he will like take part in that culture so that he can accurately depict it then later.
Yeah,
which makes sense. It makes sense, and it's nice to have a director actually give a damn about the subject matter and not just like, I'm gonna make this my own thing. Like, no
thought into it.
I mean, it is his own thing, but it's also
he's also staying
being
true,
faithful, to the material, which is another thing where I think this, like, comparing this to the Green Knight, only works on a visual level. Because what, I forget his name, the director of The Green Knight did was that he took an old story, an old chivalrous romance, a story about heroism, bravery, and a little bit of it just like fun entertainment.
Sure.
And turn it into this like this dissertation on toxic masculinity and like colonialism. It's like,
David Lowery, by the way.
Thank you, David Lowery. And like we said in that episode, which you can check out, it's a free episode, it's on all the platforms. Those are important things to talk about, sure. But to take something that is so specifically about heroism and, brave knights and flip it on its head and like do the anti-thing of that feels very disrespectful.
It's kind of the wrong setting.
It's definitely the wrong setting. And it's, I think it's disrespectful to the source material.
Yeah.
Robert Eggers, on the other hand, he wanted to make a story about Vikings, and there are a lot of, I don't like that word, but there's a lot of problematic aspects about Viking culture.
Oh, hell yes.
the pillaging, the slavery, the...
Vikings were the worst.
Yeah.
We paint them as these awesome warriors in all the, series and movies that are made. They're fucking bastards, though.
Well...
A lot of them.
I'm torn, especially because how brilliantly they introduce those problematic aspects of Viking culture in this movie. I thought was just like, we'll talk about that later. But I gotta say, those were the times to start with,
Sure.
And I also think that there's this, which that is my right-wing political side coming up a little bit, that, the whole might makes right. I know that's not a thing we usually talk about today, but it's something that I think there's something to it to a degree. I don't want to talk about politics, but I'm just like, why I'm fascinated by this and why I thought it was so wonderful that they depicted this in the movie. We as a society, we didn't if we wanted something, we took it.
Well, yeah.
And, like, you can stop us, definitely, because what we're doing is wrong. We're taking it, and they knew what they were doing was wrong. I mean, not like, oh, we're doing something wrong, but, like, yeah, we're stealing. Stealing was a thing back then, like.
But I want it, so.
Yeah, but then there's also this, like, which is part of that, part of, like, the warrior culture, like, if they then, when they're doing these wrong things, stealing, raping, pillaging, burning, killing, are defeated by someone who's stronger, if the people they're attacking turns out to defeat them, they respect that.
Well, yeah.
That's the whole thing. That's why going to Valhall is the most, like, honorable thing to do, like, die in battle.
Yeah.
Because it's the perfect way to, like, test your mettle.
Yeah.
Not metal.
I mean, yeah.
And I think that is a very fascinating way to live your life.
Sure. I'm just saying, the things that Vikings did are obviously bad, like you said.
Yeah.
But they're not worse than anyone else, because at least they own up to it. And then we had Christians coming in and saying, no, we're just doing God's work, doing the same shit, and then blaming it on someone else. So
exactly, they did this. Yeah, we're not going to get into all that, but
because that's like the progression you see, because you have Vikings and then they got like Christian, they got converted. Christian, they got converted. We kinda, that's when that shit kind of went down. So I'm just and I mean historically. Every culture is, in a way, is barbaric and brutal, especially back then. Yeah. It's just that some people decided to hide it better, as Christians did. Yeah, some people decided to blame on someone else, or just have a very like elaborate explanation to try and justify it. While Vikings are saying, "Well, we wanna, and if we fail, then cool."
Yeah, that's why I've always appreciated Vikings.
At least they're honest.
The barbaric tribes of like Northern Europe, Saxons, even like to bring up another great movie, which is kind of resembled in a bit. What are they called? The guys in 300. They're not Greeks. They're Spartans.
Spartans, yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
These very like.
We just want to kill to die,
least,
basically.
They may be assholes, but at least they're honest about it.
Yeah.
They're not like, oh, God is good and everything, but we will still enslave entire nations and rape children, but God is good. No.
We kill to die.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why and because it's part of like our country's culture, I especially like Viking culture.
Yeah. Well, going back to the Northmen then.
Yes.
Specifically, the parts in, obviously, this is a spoilercast, I'm going to spoil certain things, it's not specific details, just warning.
Yeah, I think we're gonna talk spoilers all throughout the episode.
Yeah, but we're not probably...
Even the ending is pretty obvious, but,
But I'm thinking a specific time when we've seen Hamlet or whatever, he's grown up now.
Yes.
He's Björnulv by now. Yes. He goes by
Beowulf.
And he's joined a Rus group of people, I think.
And where Russia is now, yeah.
Yeah. And they're in, like, the Baltics.
Yeah.
Going after people and burning villages just because. That whole fucking part... amazing.
It's the one you've seen in the trailers when they scale a wall. He grabs the spear out of the air and throws it back at the guy.
I need to know, was that, like, how many takes did that take, or is that CGI?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's CGI. That's too dangerous to do in real life.
No, but, like, just a stake. It doesn't, like, the spear part doesn't have to be real, but, like, a stake? Did they throw a stake and he had to catch it in midair?
I don't think so. Fantastic. It might have been. But what I did find out is that is actually from a saga.
About a dude catching a spear?
And throwing it back. That specific moment is from a saga. So It could have been real. We're not sure, but it could have been real. In the movie, though, I don't think it is. But yeah. It's that whole sequence when they're attacking the village. Yeah.
Because for a part of it, at least, that's one long shot, right?
It's supposed to be one long shot, but I noticed at least one...
Yeah, I mean, they can't do the entire thing, because it's kind of long, and you kind of get over obstacles and shit. Maybe you need to cut at some point, but...
Yeah, but it's portrayed as one long shot, and it is very elaborate.
Oh, yes. And very very, very well made and very cool. I mean, that's the kind of thing I imagined this movie would be all throughout, basically.
Yeah.
And I hoped it would be, but it's not really.
And I knew, since it was Robert Eggers, I knew it wouldn't be that all the way through, because he's not an action director. He wouldn't do just a straight-up action movie. He likes to tell stories. And, I mean, you can tell stories in action movies, but, you know.
I would have been fine with, like, a couple more of those berserker scenes. Maybe not just them killing, but being berserker. Like, even after the actual fight is over and they're all just sitting there like fucking dogs, panting. Yeah. Just that.
Yeah, well,
the prequel, the scene before that when they're like turning each other on by jumping around and dancing and shit.
Yeah, they're turning each other on. They're psyching themselves up.
I mean, they look kind of, I don't know. It's animalistic.
Yeah, we should talk about that as well. This is the best portrayal of a berserker rage I've ever seen. Because that was like berserker rage, something you hear in like role-playing games and stuff, but berserkers were a real thing, both in Viking culture and I'm pretty sure in like, you know, the barbarian tribes, in the rest of Europe, where you literally had like these basically wild people that they revved up and kept them like drunk and fed them, you know, hallucinogenic drugs to keep them as insane as possible, and then you just unleashed them first to like take out the main defenses of whatever you're attacking, and then you run in with your guys with pikes and bows and whatever. You know,
literally releasing the hounds.
Yes, they were portrayed. They were like taught to believe they were animals. Like they had the animal spirits, the wolves, Björnulf, the bear wolves inside them. Yeah, and the scene where they're like prepping for the battle, like psyching themselves up, just jumping around, like just screaming, like at the top of their lungs. Just
they literally look like bears walking on two legs.
Yeah, and then them just running towards the wall. It was just insane. That
it was like beautiful in a way.
Yeah, yes, it is kind of. It's very scary, but also beautiful.
Yeah.
That's also when we get the first like proper reveal of Alexander Skarsgård's physique in this movie. And my God, I remember when he did that Tarzan movie. For that. Yeah, I remember when he did the Tarzan movie a few years ago, where he got cut as fuck.
Yeah,
and this was like one step above that.
Well, yeah, because for Tarzan he was kind of lean but muscular.
He was big,
but you know.
But this was like
this was just bulking.
Yes, and
he was
also
big.
I never really thought about that, but he's tall. He's like 6'3", which is like almost 2 meters. And they really emphasize it in this movie. He's huge.
Some people look like children next to him.
Yeah.
I mean, when he and Anna Taylor-Joy are like too close to each other, his hand covers like her entire torso.
Yeah, he's such big hands.
He's ginormous compared to her.
Or the scene where they're playing the kind of cricket-looking game, which I've never heard of actually. Knackeball?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah. It's cricket and lacrosse basically combined.
Yes, the game, and the big brute on the other team.
Oh yeah,
is the Icelandic strongman guy who was in Game of Thrones.
Oh, he's the Mountain.
What's it
or
called?
The Hound or something.
Yeah, exactly. He played the Mountain. Hafthor Björnsson, I think his name is
something like that.
Yeah, and he's a huge guy.
Yeah, Hafthor Julius Björnsson.
Yeah. He's huge. He's massive. But when they started just beating each other up, other than him being a little broader because he has that strongman physique, they were basically the same size.
Oh yeah.
I was like, holy shit! I didn't know Alexander Skarsgård was that big, but he was. Yeah, and which helps to sell the whole berserk, thing.
Yes.
He had the physique.
Well, that's why he got cast as the Northman in True Blood as well, because he is large as a Viking.
Hulking, yeah. I've never thought. I haven't seen him in that many things, so I never thought of it.
No,
but now
he's
that I think about it,
compared to a lot of. I mean, all of the Skarsgård family, they're pretty tall, all of them.
Yeah, I guess they are.
He's a step taller.
Yeah, he is, right?
Taller.
I've seen Stellan Skarsgård in real life. He was walking. I was tall. I was sitting at a bar and he was walking past. It was it's called uteservering. So he walked right past.
Sitting outside, you know.
And we were like, "That's Stellan." And he wasn't short, but he wasn't like tall.
But I mean, like I think he's average or slightly above average in Sweden.
Yeah, I guess.
And I think our average is relatively tall.
Yeah, we're like 5'9", 5'10" average. Yeah, I would say. Anyway, we're talking about his physique, like how he embodied it.
Yes, he is Viking.
Yeah. I gotta say though, he had a little. If we're talking about the physique, he had a little too much of the Hollywood muscle. He was very ripped. While a lot of the other actors had a little more like realistic physique. There was a bit more body fat, you know, but they were still like big hulking. But I mean, that's
he's
half
also
of
the star of the show.
Yeah, like they're selling it on his abs. Like that picture of him standing in the middle of that raid. Like, come on, that's how you sell the movie.
Yeah. But that is also one of the few images we have of him literally just flexing his abs.
That's true, yeah.
Because other than that, he is wearing a shirt for most of the movie.
Yeah.
You just see, like, his big-ass shoulders and, what are they called, traps?
His traps, yeah. God damn. That's why he's walking like this.
Yeah, he was, like, crooked after a while in the movie, because he's, like, focusing too much on the sword on one hand or something.
Yeah. Now I'm just thinking of Alexander Skarsgård without a shirt. Yeah, but speaking of the promotion stills, the trailers and everything, and how they sold this movie, I poked a little fun at the whole visionary director quote. That's like it's in every like synopsis of the movie. It starts with "from visionary director."
It's even on IMDb.
Yeah, exactly, and it's in the trailer.
They usually add that bit.
No, and I can understand why, because before this, what we said, he had done The Witch and he had done The Lighthouse, both very low budget movies. I mean, both millions of dollars, but not a lot of millions of dollars. Yeah, not just that. And it's produced by a smaller production company, A24.
Right.
So when he had the idea for this movie, like the budget at first was going to be like $60 million. And that, even though they have had a lot of success, that's just not something they can spend on one movie, obviously. So they had help from New Regency, which he had partly worked with on The Lighthouse, I think. Where they had like stepped in to add some money or something, or distributed or something. But then this was his first like studio, like proper Hollywood studio movie, because Universal got involved. And even though it has, a lot of stars, and it is a pretty straightforward action movie, because, it's not an established IP, it's not based on any book or anything, it's just, like, it's a new movie by this guy that most people haven't heard of, like Robert Eggers is not a household name.
It's like film Twitter name.
Exactly. And they spent this much money on it. They had to like really sell it in order to like make the money back. And that's why they're going hard on Ethan Hawke, Nicole Kidman.
Joy.
Yeah, but even more the older actors. She's still young, and once again, not super in the mainstream yet.
I mean, she's becoming a bit of a
but she's not
hot name.
She's not Nicole Kidman. She's not Ethan Hawke. She's not Alexander Skarsgård. So they're really selling them hard, and then the general audience won't like take to all the weird hallucinogenic, like trippy shit in the movie. So what do they show? they show the first berserker raid.
Yeah.
They show the scenes where the village gets overtaken, where his king, his father, gets murdered. They show those parts because that's what you sell the movie on.
The war scenes.
Yeah,
so
exactly. The action, and then since his name is not known, but he has done 2 very visually distinct and visually stunning movies before this.
Yeah,
they add that visionary to his name. Just like people like, oh, he's a visionary. I gotta go see this. It's all marketing jargon. But having seen the movie, they didn't lie.
I mean, it is visually very striking.
It's it's a very beautiful movie, and not just the cinematography, but like all the set design, all the costumes, all the visuals, like the whole.
Yeah, you have the fires lighting up the entire screen instead of like having
or like
lights everywhere.
Yeah, and the volcano, the gates of hell. The Valkyrie taking you up to Valhall, as they say, not Valhall. I don't know why they picked Valhall.
It's an Icelandic pronunciation, I
suppose. Okay, that makes sense.
I did not like, though, how they switched out the poster. Because the original poster is him standing on the cliff. You only see his silhouette.
You see the village across the water, right?
No, you see boats, I think. Or is it a different one?
Whatever. Where he's standing on a cliff, there's water, and then there's the village, and there's boats on the water, but...
Yeah, whatever. He's standing on this cliff on the side. Yeah. That's the first poster I saw.
But then
he's just a tiny little figure in the corner, basically.
Yeah.
Then they switched it to when he's standing on like a cliff looking like a fucking Little Mermaid, and having boats all behind him and water splashing and ravens flying. And then they switched it again to the classic, having all the characters kind of piled up.
Yeah, it's just, and in the
Photoshop foreground
faces.
You have the fire and boats in the foreground.
Yeah, because they're selling the faces of the actors. They're selling the stars.
Adding a hint of his abs, because you can tell he's shirtless in that picture. I like the original poster because it gives you more of an epicness to it.
And it sells the vision of the movie.
Yeah, well, the new one, the one they used, is more like, it looks like all the other posters we've seen ever.
Yeah, and there's also another mainstream thing you can tell. It has the, I don't know the exact nuances, but it's the blue and orange, or I guess it's kind of grayish, bluish orange.
Yes,
because those are the 2 most like. There's something about that, because you see that in a lot of movies, especially like 10 years ago. It's they're the most like attention-grabbing colors when mixed together, or something like that.
Yeah, and also they're different enough to make a striking I can't say that word.
Juxtaposition.
Difference. Yeah. But also, they kind of meld together in a good way somehow.
Yeah, that's why you saw it in every poster 10 years ago.
Same with red and blue.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's the same, just different nuances of it.
Yeah. It's very striking. Yeah. And it works. Obviously.
It works. But it's also like, all his posters in his earlier movies were just shades of grey.
Yeah.
And now, like, no, we gotta sell this, so we're gonna put some orange in your poster.
A little bit of yellow. And also, like, the kind of ugly thing, like, they put him as the main character, but he's in the background.
Yeah.
And then they have the girls in the middle, straightforward, because you're supposed to focus on the girls kind of thing, and then you add the cool kings on the side, and a little bit of the weird stuff, just tiny in the sidelines kind of thing. Yeah, it's
classic mainstream, like, poster.
Yeah.
But like we said, his vision was not compromised, and that's something he talked about.
Not in the movie, at least.
Oh yeah, exactly. And he actually talked about this in a couple of interviews I read, that even though this was the first time where the studio literally said to him, like, we're gonna cut this, like, he didn't have final cut.
No, I heard that, like, the first test audience, they were like, we don't get it.
Yeah, and like based on like one comment that it's too confusing in the beginning, they like wanted him to cut down the beginning.
Yeah.
However, he has said, which once again we can't know for sure that it's not him having like talking points by the studio, but he has said that yes, they had final cut, but the movie that they ended up with is one that he like he was satisfied. It was a movie he wanted. Like,
yeah.
They actually gave him good pointers, and he was like, makes sense, and then he changed it, you know.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully that is actually it, and he's not just being told to say that. But from the looks of it, it definitely feels like his kind of movie.
Sure.
But you mentioned that you wanted a little more scenes in the beginning, like kind of setting the characters. That's probably what they cut out a little bit.
Yeah,
to get to the action a little quicker. Because, like we said, the beginning was too slow. They didn't really make sense.
And the two characters that I liked the least didn't get enough screen time to show us who they are.
Yeah.
Which is the king and the queen in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like them, probably. And also, why, what I said before.
Yeah. So that sounds like that was something that happened, that they cut out some character development or character setting in the beginning, like setting up the characters a little bit.
Because we get a lot of time with the main character. I forgot his name. Amleth.
Björnulf.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the main character. We follow him from a kid, he's kind of a wimp in the beginning, sort of, but he does what he's supposed to, and then, he's supposed to run away. He does cut the nose of a guy to defend himself.
Yeah.
But, you feel like as a Viking kid, you would have just run into battle and screaming, but
because he wasn't bred to be a warrior. He was bred to be a king.
No, he was bred to be a king.
Yeah, it's different.
True.
And they do the whole speech when Aurvandil talks to... Shit, what's Nicole Kidman's character's name? Whatever, Nicole Kidman. They talk about him not being ready yet because he haven't gone through the ritual, and he's too young. And they even say
Gudrún.
that
Her name is Gudrún.
Oh, they barely mention.
But they never call her that.
No, they call her the queen.
I think just call her the queen.
Yeah. They even though mention that my grandfather took over the throne when he was in Amlet's age, and she's like, but he had to defeat his uncle to get the throne. I was like, because that's literally
foreshadowing.
So he was not old enough to be like a fierce warrior yet.
No, I suppose
it wouldn't make sense.
No,
I mean even Conan starts with that. He's too young to fight back. He doesn't know how to.
We could have still had a little bit more, because it feels like it's a day that happens, and then all of a sudden we cut to...
It is a day, basically.
Yeah,
they arrive,
an evening and a day.
There is a night, in the morning they go to do the ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, it feels a little...
They cut to many years later, or a few years later, or whatever he says.
Years later, it just says.
Years later, right. It's just years later.
About, I think it's supposed to be like 20 or something like that.
Yeah. Because you can kind of tell it by one character who is a baby in that beginning, and then is a young adult, I suppose.
Exactly.
Turir,
yeah.
I think. Also played by a Swedish person, by the way.
Yes. Where did I recognize him from? Because I recognize the name, but I couldn't place him in a movie or TV show or anything.
I think the one people might know him most from is Queen of Hearts.
Well, I haven't seen that, but okay.
I honestly just knew he was Swedish because I heard it somewhere. I haven't seen him in anything.
Maybe I've just seen pictures of him. I don't know. Whatever. He plays...
He's been in a few Maria Van things as well.
Oh, okay. So I've probably seen pictures of him.
Yeah.
Where were we? Right. So the opening feels a little short. It does.
Yes.
But I also think that's it works that like the second they leave the ritual where he becomes a man, so he's ready to become a king later. The king dies so that he can take over. Or not that he's going to take over, but you know what I mean. Like now you're ready. Okay, now we're gonna kill your dad so you can start your revenge journey. But it also works because they're in that hut for we don't know how long they're in there.
No, that's true.
Because they start tripping,
and also,
and it's a perfect.
Sorry,
it's a perfect opportunity for his brother, the king's brother, Fjolnir, to actually ambush the village when the king is not there. So. Yeah. I mean, it works,
Yeah, and it also works because that's all the motivation our main character needs for the rest of the movie. Yeah. Really. He doesn't need to have a we don't need to see how strong of a bond him and his father has, or him and his mother has.
No, we know.
We just need to know that, that bastard killed my dad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna revenge him.
I will avenge you, father. I will save you, mother. I will kill you, Fjolnir. That's literally the mantra in the trailer and in the movie.
Yeah. And that's all we need for a main character.
Yeah.
Really. Because then we follow along. Someone called this movie a coming-of-age story. I was like, nah. I wouldn't call it that.
There are aspects of it, definitely. Because
but
it kind of changes from a revenge story to more of a love story towards the end. This is definitely a story...
But revenge is still the main thing.
Yes, it is the main thing up until the end, when he's no longer fighting for revenge.
No, that's true.
Which I think is, if you want to once again take something where they kind of make the character a bit more complex, is that he realizes, that hate begets hate, revenge begets revenge, and instead it's better to fight for something else, which he does in the end. Yeah.
Even though it's exactly, but he still ends up doing exactly what the prophecy was, though.
Which they also perfectly, once again, not saying that violence is wrong, and he if this was made by David Lowery, he would have just left in the end with Anya Taylor-Joy's character.
Yeah.
But since this is a revenge story, and that's not the Viking way, Robert Eggers said, "Why not do both?" Just like the character says, "I can do both."
Yeah.
So he protects his new family and get revenge for the death of his father in the same stroke, which is perfect. So in the end, he is not just this like revenge hate machine.
No.
He has something else to fight for, but he's still that angry, fucking rage-filled monster that he was in the beginning. But he's just pointing it in a better direction, basically.
Yes.
Which I really found admirable as well. Don't just say, "Oh, violence is bad." No, we talked about this. It was another Patreon episode when we very briefly talked about the slap. The Oscars follow up. Yeah, where I specifically said we don't condone violence other than to protect yourself, because violence has a place in society, and this is a perfect opportunity to use violence to protect your family.
Yeah,
especially in a setting like this.
Yeah. Speaking of the ending, because that is literally what he does. If he does not finish his revenge, the person will come after his family.
Exactly. He has something else to fight for, his family.
He's not just killing him for revenge now, he's killing him to protect his family in the future. But also, speaking of the end, that final battle scene, that's the one I mentioned looks a lot like something from Star Wars.
yes. It's the fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. Because they're literally fighting on the side of a volcano.
Yeah.
Or, I guess in this, they're in the volcano.
Technically, yes.
Yeah. Which is another, I don't know if that's, specifically, part of the hero's journey, but it is a motif that comes back, the whole fighting on the side of a mountain / volcano.
Because it looks cool, though.
It looks so cool. And, I mean, here are two giant men...
Oh, yes.
Dressed in nothing but a shield. Literally nothing.
Didn't they have, it looked like they kind of have a loincloth or something?
No,
maybe no.
They were buck naked. And fighting, two naked giant men fighting to the death in a volcano. I mean, that is the most heavy metal thing I have ever seen in a movie. That is, I don't know where I wrote it, but I think it's somewhere in a video or in a letterbox review or something. There's this small subgenre of movies that I've dubbed muskelfilm, which is not. It's not all. It's movies like 300 and Conan and this, but it's not just
muscled
that.
Men.
Yeah, but it's not. It's more like it's movies about strength. It doesn't specifically have to be that, even though most of the movies are that. But this is a perfect representation of muskelfilm, muscle movie. Yeah. Because it's about strength, will, force. And that is what that scene is. it's
I mean, even
all
how it
force
literally ends, because you have the whole, the hero is almost beaten and then he comes back kind of thing. Yeah, but that one comeback strike. Can I spoil it? I mean, yeah, it's the spoilerCast.
Yeah, go ahead. We're 55 minutes in, so fuck it.
He literally beheads the dude while being stabbed through the chest.
Yes, and since he dies with honor, he fights for something like righteous and true, and he is technically, even though he wins and none of them win, but they're both bested by their better, you know.
Yeah. They're bested.
He goes to Valhall. The only other thing he really strived for, other than to be with Anya Taylor-Joy in the end.
Yeah.
So, I think that's very bold to have, like, the warrior's death be the end, instead of him, like, pussying out and like, no, I'm gonna be with my family. Here he did the ultimate sacrifice. He sacrificed himself to protect his family. And that's what a goddamn warrior does.
And it opened up for not only the lava fighting scene being very visually striking, but then cutting to the Valkyrie bringing him to Valhalla with the blue and the magic, and oh my god, it looked beautiful.
Yeah,
the Valkyrie is very nice.
Yeah,
Just
it's
like
cool.
how they're described. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what a Valkyrie is. Screw all the other versions. No. That's what a Valkyrie is. They're scary but beautiful, and they just, oh my god, love her.
That's what a Valkyrie is. Yeah, it's almost like a monster, but they're doing something nice. You know, they're bringing fallen warriors to Valhall.
Also, like tiny details, like she has a swan on her helmet because they sometimes take the shape of a swan in mythology.
Yeah, it's little details like that just makes the movie so much better.
I wanna, before we because I feel like we're towards the end, we're wrapping things up, but I want to talk about the costumes more specifically.
Sure.
Because we have a few. I mean, you have a few basic tunics and just
that's what
clothes,
slaves
whatever.
or thralls wore.
But then you have the wolf pelt thing. Yeah. Beautiful. God, I love that. You have the Valkyrie's outfit, which is just magical. And then you have the seer, played by Björk.
Yes.
God damn.
It's very, she's supposed to be Norn, or I guess a seer, but she speaks a lot about the Norn. I'm guessing she's actually one of the Norns, you know, the witches who spin the threads of destiny.
They just call her seer because it's easier to explain, I suppose.
But she mentions the Norns, and you know she spins threads just like they do. So, you know, and she literally tells him of his destiny. So
well, she reminds him of his destiny.
Oh, sure, yeah,
because he had that told to him from Willem Dafoe's character.
Right.
In the beginning, when he's going through the ritual.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that is also, I suppose, a depiction of the Norns, sort of. You go through a trial of becoming a man, and they tell you things are going to happen in your life, kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess. I actually don't know too much about that, but yeah.
But her costume, the headpiece with the what's it called? Vete, what's it called?
Tusk?
Yeah, I suppose so. It looks very, like, it's something that some of these, like, depicting Vikings, they kind of stay away from because it looks a lot like Native Americans and you don't want to copy that too much. But that's what it was.
It kind of was the same. Yeah, they were like...
Yeah, it's
they were
similar
very,
styles,
like,
but with the Nordic materials.
It was very... It's called ornate. They had a lot of, like, things, you know, to make them look otherworldly, because that's what they were supposed to be, you know.
But with Nordic materials.
Yeah,
instead
it's a lot of bones and...
feathers, we used flowers.
Yeah, and flowers and bones and stuff, yeah.
More of the växtriket. I can't fucking speak today.
The
plant life?
Yeah. The plant kingdom, you know, stuff, you know, it grows.
Gorgeous. Nice details. Fucking loved it. I just wanted to mention that because if this movie, because a lot of people, I looked up a few reviews. Some people were just too pretentious about it. But some people are like, this movie is the best movie this year. Hands down, nothing's ever gonna beat this. This should win an Oscar just because.
Just because, well...
Not sure about the winning Oscar just because. I'll give it, like, one of the visual ones, and then definitely costume.
Music.
Oh, yeah, music. Oh, yes, music. Please. Because that... The entire thing as an Oscar, no, it's not going to happen, first of all, and...
Yeah.
I don't know if it's... Nomination, maybe. I don't know if it's a winner.
No.
I'm not going to say that this is the best movie this year. First of all, we're in the beginning of the year. Second of all, I think there are going to be movies that will beat this.
Listen, we're actually 1/4 done with this year. We can't really say we're in the beginning anymore.
No, fine. We're a quarter through the year. We have 3 more quarters, though.
Sure. And also, like, I don't care. We said this before, but like, I don't care about the Oscars. But
it's
to use it as a measuring, a measuring stick, like
make people understand the
like we said in our patron exclusive episode about the Oscars. They won't pick a movie like this.
No,
not for. They might give it like a pity Best Picture nomination, like they did with Mad Max a few years ago.
Yeah.
But they're never going to pick it, and it's not. Even though the directing is impeccable, they're never going to pick him for director, and they're not going to pick the script. They're not going to pick any of the actors. Even though, I would say like Alexander Skarsgård going all in on being a fucking like monster like. Pillaging murderer rapist. Like, we don't see him rape, but I mean, the berserkers did that, but he doesn't do it in the movie. Whatever.
He's obviously he's the hero, so we don't get to see him do that heinous of a thing.
He's barely a hero in the movie, though. That's kind of,
no, but he
just kills people, and he's anyway.
Even like when they're burning the children, he hasn't touched anyone there. He's just standing there.
Yeah. I mean, they
can't
still
show him doing.
No, they can't show him do that because he's supposed to be the hero, but still, like.
Yeah.
To go all in, like that scene when they're psyching each other up, and he stops being human for a second.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He's all rage. He's all animalistic rage. Have you ever seen another actor do that?
Not really.
Completely, like, forgo any pretension of like looking cool or looking sexy, or just looking normal, and just completely become that berserker. I've never seen that.
No.
Sure, it's only one scene, but I think it's indicative of his performance in the movie.
Yes.
Speaking of Nicolas Cage, he does that a lot. Which is why he should have been nominated a lot more times than he has been. But I think that it's very admirable as an actor to not just, act, but to perform.
Yeah.
Let go of your insecurities and pretensions and stuff, So,
but no,
like, honestly, I would nominate him for that.
Sure.
I would. Maybe not win, but at least nominate him if we're going to talk about the Oscars like that.
I wholeheartedly think the technical aspects of this movie is the star, though. The visuals, the music, the details. That's the main star for me. The fucking choice of landscape. Of being on, I think they were on Ireland or something.
Yeah, which is kind of funny.
Iceland, for some
looks
reason?
exactly like Iceland, but they shot almost all the movie in Ireland.
I suppose it's easier to get
there. yeah, partly that, and I guess...
more space to film that is uninhabited.
Yeah, I guess. Well...
I don't know. Less animals in the way, something. I don't know. The CGI foxes, though, were kind of weird.
Yeah, because they were completely CGI. I understand why, but...
Yeah. They had dogs, and the dogs were normal.
Yeah, but the fox had to do specific things.
Yeah, that's true. They had to howl with Alexander.
Yeah, and look up at him and like almost emote. So I can see why they went the CGI route.
But they looked very CGI. I didn't like that.
Yeah, for some scenes, yeah.
They looked kind of like a... video game fox.
No, it wasn't that bad. It stuck out, but it wasn't that bad. I think it stuck out though because there's so little other CGI in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, there's...
At least that you, like, react to.
Yeah.
Any CGI in this movie, except for the foxes, was so well made that I'm not sure there was any CGI. Like,
I'm pretty sure, I haven't looked it up, but I'm pretty sure most of it is, like, background stuff. Like, changing the weather, like, adding clouds and stuff like that.
Sure.
There's no, like, CGI. There's no, like, CGI monsters or...
No.
You know, like, big magical CGI things. There's none of that. It's in the background to enhance things.
How did they do the Draugr?
It's just a guy in a suit.
Yeah, that looked very awesome though. That was.
It's just a big guy with a Skeletor mask on that they put some dust on. You know, it's not nothing else.
Very cool though.
Very cool. Yeah,
that scene as well. My God.
Yes. That's the one where he is facing his fears and fighting the dark side of himself. The id. I don't remember.
I think it's
psychology. I think it's fighting his id. Yeah, it's a classic thing in the hero's journey.
It's also, you know, like they the seer or whatever said, stay in the path of the moonlight because you don't. It's not very hospitable in the shadows.
Exactly, and that's how he defeats. Stay in the path of the light, because he can't defeat the beast in the darkness. He has to step into the light.
Yeah.
You know, he has to move towards the light, you know, away from anger and vengeance and move towards love. That's how he wins!
Even though the magical sword he possesses only works in the darkness.
Yeah, you know.
Ooh, also very nice.
Yeah, and that also, the subtle hints, like, that, which is another thing Robert Eggers talked about in interviews, that the religion and the mysticism is real. It's not like, oh, you know, we're gonna like in Vikings, you know, the TV show where they're all, you know, they're sacrificing people to the gods and everything. But I haven't seen all the show, but the only like kind of evidence we have that the gods are real in that show is in like the very first scene. We see Odin walk on a battlefield and you see some Valkyries pick up people, like literally I think the first or like second scene in the first episode.
We do get to see Odin a few more times throughout the seasons, but he only shows himself to Ragnar and her sons, who are devout and
might as well just be, you know, worthy visions that they're having because they're you know, devout, like Christians see God everywhere, you know.
Basically, I mean, there's a couple of times where Odin tells them, well, towards the middle of the show, I suppose. Spoiler for that one. Odin tells Ragnar's sons that he's dead.
Oh,
literally, he tells. I don't remember the kid's name. He like
Björn?
Odin like tells Björn. Odin tells Björn, your father's dead.
Okay.
We don't see it, but he's like, oh, Odin just told me dad's dead.
But usually other times, you know, in movies like this, you know, or medieval movies, where it's also like implied that it's, you know, it's a religion, not something that actually happens. Here, magic exists. Like, magic's part of it. The gods are part of it.
Yeah.
And they don't like try to like, like, is it or isn't? No. Magic is real because he literally cannot unsheath the sword because the sun came out.
Yeah.
The scene where he's about to kill Fjolnir, but the sword won't come out of the sheath. So then he climbs up on the roof, and you see, because sunrise.
Mm-hmm. That's also that detail in the story with the whole path of the moonlight, because the shadows are not hospitable. Hospitable? Yeah. It has to do with him having to choose the better path. He can't just. I mean, he could choose to kill him in the dark.
Yeah.
And be the coward and just run away. But always having to like hide in the dark for the rest of his life, and it won't be a nice place.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Or he can choose to bring him into the light to the gates of hell and kill him there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and even having the scene where Odin's ravens free him.
Yes.
From when he's captured, which is there's a lot of stuff now that I know that this is partly based on like an old folk tale. Because watching this, I was like, man, they're borrowing a lot from Conan the Barbarian. But I'm thinking maybe Conan the Barbarian borrowed that from the old Icelandic tale.
Yes, probably.
Because when we're talking about Conan, there's going to be a lot of a lot of similarities, like visually and thematically and like plot wise. It's very close to Conan the Barbarian from time to time.
Well, the story of Hamlet is the basis of a lot of heroes' journeys.
Yeah, it is,
and a lot of revenge stories, I suppose.
Yeah, so it makes sense,
even if they're unwillingly referencing it because they think they're referencing Hamlet.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, someone pointed that out, which for some reason I didn't think of. Move the H in Hamlet, and it's Hamlet.
Yeah. Someone said that Shakespeare probably just copied someone else's homework.
Yeah, probably. Since Hamlet was the way to say it in ye old English times. So he would have I'll just move the H and it's my character now, you know. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you know.
No, and there's no copyright back then. Who cares?
Of course not.
Specifically not.
Not on folktales, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, you can't.
Yeah. Well, we could, I get, you know what, we could just go on, talk about specific scenes.
Yeah.
Talk about how I thought it was refreshing in a modern movie to depict women as deceitful and angry and like not like just the heroes of everything.
Oh yes.
But at the same time, you know, showing that, you know, it's you know, women are kind of mystical, which they were in Viking culture.
Oh yeah, women were the only ones who were allowed to practice magic.
Yeah, they were they were the magic practitioners.
Yeah.
But also that there's a woman that kind of calms him, makes him see the light, so to speak. Both figuratively
women are like the sea.
Yeah, but it's also nice that not every woman was like that. That, you know,
no.
Turns out the main bad guy was, well, depending on which way you look at it, the main bad guy could have been aurvandil and Hamlet, but from our point of view, it was the queen, Gudrún.
Oh, yes.
That had been scheming all these years. And she was like, you know what she was?
She was a bitch till the end.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny now. I just thought of this now. She is kind of Hamlet's counterpoint, because she was, from day one when she was captured by Aurvandil, it turns out she wasn't a princess. She was a slave that he married.
They just spun a story that she was an English princess.
Exactly.
Married.
She was consumed by rage. Vengeance. Well, rage too, but by vengeance. Which ultimately led to her, like, pointless death. Because from day one, she hated Aurvandil, understandably.
Obviously.
Hated him enough, though, that she actually didn't love her son, because the son was forced on her. But, I mean, which is also understandable, but it's still your own flesh and blood.
Well,
and someone she decided to raise for the next, like, 8 years or 10 years or whatever.
She didn't really have a choice, though.
No, of course not.
She didn't decide to raise Hamlet. She had to be there.
Sure, but then when that is revealed, she, like, literally tries to like, deceive him by coming onto him.
Oh, yeah.
Which,
weird.
It was like, and of course, since he's a fucking man, he's like, "No, begone, witch!" and just stabs her instead.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't care if that's misogynist, that's fucking badass.
No, that's not
don't
misogyny.
Don't come here with your woman ways.
She fooled him to try and kill him, though.
Yeah,
so it's self-defense.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine. If she could, she would have killed him before he was born. Yeah. But she couldn't.
No.
So that was self-defense. He is okay to stab her. I don't care.
Yeah. But
As a woman, I give him approval.
She set the whole plot of Fjolnir killing Aurvandil. She set all that in motion. Which, you know, from her perspective,
because she could love a bastard, because a bastard would love her as well, because they were as flawed, I suppose, or something. She said something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah,
what she
well,
said.
I think ultimately she just used Fjolnir as well.
Probably. But she convinced him with that story.
Yeah, and it's also kind of funny then. So from her perspective, and, you know, this movie could have just turned out to be, you know, showing that she was in the right. You know, that she did the right thing. You know what I mean? Like, in any other director's hands, it could have just become her story. And in the end, Hamlet just questions everything, and but
yes,
here they I keep saying they. Robert Eggers, since he is the writer and director,
yes,
chose to not go the obvious way. Still, even though her story is very tragic, still make her out to be a villain, basically a bad person.
Well, yeah, like you said, it's kind of refreshing to see that point of view nowadays, because most of the time you can't have a woman be the bad guy unless the hero is a woman as well.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or even if she is the bad guy, she has a reason to be a bad guy.
Yeah. Which
kind of
Gudrún
she kind of has.
Yeah, she has, definitely. But
not to this length.
Yeah, and
she's going a bit too far.
Yeah, and for Hamlet, he's lived almost like 30 years. His first 10 years, he revered his father, obviously, and also the whole thing where she says like he could barely love you, his own son. He just loved silver and whores.
Yeah, like, that's just her trying to turn you on him. Exactly, because
we didn't see much of that, so we can't. But the only scenes we saw was him being very loving towards his son.
Well, yeah, he wanted to have a son to keep his legacy. He wanted to have his son be as brave and powerful as him.
Yeah,
of course.
And so
the dedication was there. It's just he wasn't around all the time.
Yeah, which because you have to raid the summer raid.
How else will you survive?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's very interesting how that scene where that kind of second plot, her scheming, is revealed. It adds a lot of complexity to the characters. Like,
sure,
the fact that Hamlet is basically he became a what's it called? Not a golem, a facsimile, the shadow of his own, like, angry, murderous, traitorous dad.
Yeah.
To the end, so far that he actually kills his mother and kills her son, his half brother, I suppose.
Yeah.
But also then that he becomes at that point very conflicted over his whole revenge tale, because has he been living a lie all these years? And he even says that when what is Anya Taylor-Joy's character's name? I keep calling her Anya Taylor-Joy.
Olga.
Olga, right? Olga.
Olga of the Birch Forest.
Right. When she
Earth Witch,
she rescues him, brings him to that hot spring, to rest up before the final battle. He says that she destroyed my entire like history or something like that.
She destroyed my history.
Yeah, my history, right? Yeah, and he, because of that, he is conflicted, but he also mentions that hate is still everything he has known, and now that he doesn't even have a loving mother anymore, it's literally everything that he has ever felt in his life is hate, ever since he was 10 years old.
1/3 of his reason to be just disappeared.
Yeah, exactly.
Because saving his mother isn't an option anymore.
Yeah, and he's even now conflicted over saving his father, because maybe he was just a whoremongering warlord, And is that really something to avenge? But at the same time, to him, he was a loving father. He was something to look up to.
And even if he was just a brute, he was still his father, and he was still wrongfully killed.
And Fjolnir was still a coward for ambushing him instead of calling him out. So,
Fjolnir didn't even do the damage. He just
stepped in and cut the head off. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Also, it took him 2 tries to do that.
Yes, that's a sign of weakness. If you can't cut the head off in one fell swoop,
you're weak.
You're literally, that's a sign that what you're doing is not the right thing.
Because you don't have the
strength of the gods, the conviction to do it.
Conviction,
exactly.
Behind the blow.
So that's literally a thing.
It's also dishonor and disrespect towards the one you're decapitating.
Yeah, exactly. So you have all that aspect, and then the fact that he now has something maybe even stronger than revenge to fight for, which is Olga, and turns out 2 children on the way.
Oh yeah, the maiden queen, maiden king or something. They call his daughter.
They show the daughter in like the whole setup, I'm thinking she's going to become a queen.
Yeah, but they mentioned in his the seer mentions that you will beget the story of the maiden king.
Right. Oh, right. Yes, I
thought
about
that was Anna Taylor-Joy, that she was going to become like a warrior princess or something. No. His daughter will become a legend.
Yeah, when they
not because she's his daughter, but because she lives.
She's going to do in her life. Yeah. That's kind of funny. Yeah, because when the seer says that, I was like, oh no, so it's going to be. It's gonna be that I'm gonna fight for my queen, and he fights for Anya Taylor-Joy, and I felt that was gonna be like, it's gonna. I got Star Wars vibes again, like, but sequel trilogy, the bad Star Wars movies.
They did a little bit of a subtle foreshadowing of that just before he sees the seer.
Yeah,
because a girl comes in on a horse, being very regal, and just cutting down people, calling them weak.
Weak, I don't want weakness.
I was like, is she gonna come back somehow? Because as soon as you heard the warrior king, maiden, whatever they called her, I was like, is that her? Will she come back somehow? But no, that was just a foreshadowing of what his daughter will become, basically.
Yeah.
Nice detail.
Very nice detail. Also, another thing about which we don't get a lot of in movies nowadays, and especially movies like this where they might, it's an old story with old, thoughts on how to treat people and whatnot, and they might want to change that a little bit, make it a little bit more modern. I like that the love story between Hamlet and Olga is one of it's unconditional love. Yeah. She isn't like she because at some point I'm like thinking like, is she just gonna use him? Because that's a classic one where
I mean,
because you don't want to show one be weak and only be saved by the guy and just be the love interest, because that's bad writing.
Yeah.
But here they manage to do where she's literally she's the love interest, but she's also like a strong character in the story.
Yeah.
They depict her as something more than just the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
I mean, she has once again the whole thing with that magic and gods exist. She literally like calls upon the winds to take her swiftly to the Orkney Islands, which I thought was cool.
She's an earth witch.
Yeah,
a nature witch, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess we would call it Wicca nowadays.
I suppose, yeah. The only thing I kind of didn't like about their stories, I don't know, it felt like we could have had more clear like affection growing between them.
It's a little
because most of it's like just them scheming eventually because they plan straight ahead that we're gonna make it out of here and you're gonna take me with you, is what she says.
Yeah, and that's where I thought like she's gonna just use him and in the end leave him behind or something.
But then she helps him scheme and plan and do the things. But then I don't know, it just felt like after that one scene where they're celebrating something and the slaves get some
time for themselves, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone's just sleeping around. That's when they just, all of a sudden, they're, like, married, I suppose.
Well, not like, married.
No, but, like, I get that feeling, like, you're mine now.
They consummate the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
They just choose each other for, like, yeah, I like being around you. That's enough. I'm gonna sleep with you now, and now you're mine. I don't know, it just felt kind of...
Yeah, well, I don't know. I haven't been in a relationship in a long time, but if it's love, it just happens. It's not like this. I mean, and they didn't really have time to like go and have coffee and talk to each other.
No, I know.
So if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. And I mean, since they already
needed the sex scenes to have like, oh yeah, she's carrying his children eventually.
Yeah, and I mean, since They were helping each other to plot the plan, the scheme.
Yeah.
So they spent time together.
Sure.
And when the time came and like the slaves were allowed to like celebrate and have fun for a night, and it was kind of like implied that this is when they run around and they have sex. Like if there's someone you like, now's the time. Was she gonna pick someone else? Like, no, that was obviously her choice.
Sure.
So it makes sense. It kind of fast tracked the relationship, but it's also not a movie. It's not a movie about the relationship.
No, that's true.
And I think after that initial scene where it's like, whoa, going a little fast, like having sex on the first date. After that, though, you had a lot of scenes where they talked about their love, and it was developed after that. So I think that's fine, you know.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's sure.
They kind of reversed. They didn't reverse, but I think that worked.
Maybe that's why it felt off, though.
Yeah, because it was in reverse, as from what you're used to in movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like that. That ultimately there was no like hidden plot behind their love. It was just love, which is nice.
They were fated, obviously.
Yeah, that too. You know, yeah. And that was. If there's one sign that this might not be a 5 out of 5 for me, I talked about this also in earlier episodes. I was obviously like emotionally invested and involved. There was a lot. I don't know if you ever, if you saw that in the theater, but my jaw was literally on the floor for like.
Yeah, no, I noticed that a few times,
and I was like giggling to myself because it was so awesome. I did not cry though, which I do. No. If a movie's good, like not just tear jerkers. Like I cry in most movies nowadays if they're good enough. That's a sign like this is a good movie because I'm that emotionally like invested in the movie or fragile, whatever you want to call it. Here though, maybe more because of the subject matter.
It didn't call for tears though at all.
But when they're on the boat and he realizes that fuck, if I leave Fjolnir alive, he's gonna come after not just me, but now my woman and my children. And he's like, sorry, gotta go. But he's basically signing it's a death sentence.
Well, yeah. He's not gonna come back. He knows that.
Yeah. There's this faint hope that he might, but probably not gonna survive.
He's not counting on it.
Yeah, and she's pretty sure of it as well.
Yeah. Which is why she's upset about it.
That was my one, like, moment where I almost, like, oh, no! But it was also like, yes! Because he was gonna go die a hero's death, and that's my favorite thing in stories. The hero's death, it's the best. There's
nothing better.
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. There's nothing more noble than to die for a cause. So
no, that's true.
It was like, it was tears of joy almost.
Yeah,
that was a good moment.
Sure,
damn good moment.
Yeah, I wasn't as moved as you were.
No, but I agree. This is more.
I understand.
This is more my kind of movie than your kind of movie, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I liked it. It's just, I don't know. Some details in mainly it's the casting that bothers me, to be honest. I don't know.
But
I don't mind these actors in general, but I don't think some of them worked for their characters.
Sure. But then to actually wrap it up, because we said that about 35 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Sorry. So you enjoy, like, everything mostly, except for the casting choices. Is that enough to, like, ruin the movie for you?
No, it doesn't ruin the movie, but it's not like I'm gonna run to the theaters to watch it again today. I might rewatch it once it comes out to streams, so I can show it to friends and family. But it's not gonna be one of these movies that I'm gonna, sit down and rewatch every now and then, because it's so good. Not really, not for me.
This is right up my alley, so I probably will. I don't know if they're showing this in IMAX here in Sweden.
I think they are.
They are? Because we saw it in a VIP, which was nice. It's always very nice. Even though it's a smaller screen. Oh,
but very so comfortable seats.
Very comfortable. Much better than the other seats here in Sweden. I might go watch this.
I chose it based on the time and not the theater.
Yeah.
I think it was an IMAX as well, but it was not a suitable time for us.
Sure. Yeah, I'm definitely watching this again.
I'll wait. But I'll give you this. I did give it... This morning, I sat... Just before we started recording, I opened Letterboxd to enter it on my list because I've been kind of slacking on that part.
Yeah.
I put it as a 3.
A 3?
Because it's still a good movie.
A 3? It's just a 7.
Yes.
Okay.
I gave it, though, after we've talked about it more.
Do you give half stars?
Yes.
Okay.
I added a half star now.
So it's 3.5. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I mentioned in the beginning that I'm fluctuating between 4.5 and 5. Because we talked about, that was the only thing we really talked about after the movie. The fact that this is in English makes it sound silly sometimes because of the dialects and accents. And also, the language didn't come off as authentic as it does in his other movies. But that's because these other movies have always taken place in America. So they can talk English.
English-speaking countries.
Yeah, no, both are in America.
Yeah, but they've just come to America, basically, right?
No, they've been there. Both children
but they have that Puritan...
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. They have that Puritan accent, though.
Yeah, because it's before, the whole Civil War and everything.
Yeah.
Before the War of Independence or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're still talking English talk. British talk. But I mean, they have, they used authentic, words and sentence structure and everything. And the same thing in The Lighthouse. They speak that ye old-timey New England kind of talk,
Yeah.
Here, it's the Hollywood version of what Vikings talk like. It's it's Skyrim. I used to be an adventurer until I took an arrow to the knee. They talk like that because they have to speak English so that people understand them. I mean, I would have liked to see this.
They did throw in a few Icelandic pronunciations of names and places.
Yeah, and Anya Taylor-Joy speaks some form of
Baltic accent?
Slavic language in the end when she puts the spell on the wind,
Yeah.
And there were a few songs in Icelandic, and some people speak a few Icelandic words and stuff like that. But yeah, for the most part, it's English, and that is a necessary evil.
Yes.
Would it have been cool if all the Danish actors spoke Danish and all the Swedish actors spoke Swedish? Or I guess he's supposed to play a Norwegian guy, so he would have spoken Norwegian, I suppose. They spoke in the languages of their characters.
Don't actually know where his father's kingdom was, because the Norwegian king took it over eventually. Yeah. But I mean, the Norwegian king in Viking times had all of Scandinavia for a while.
I suppose.
So I don't know.
Whatever.
They're on some weird island somewhere. I don't fucking know.
Yeah. That would have been cool, but it would have been. We've talked about language barriers also. It would have been harder to invest in the characters when it's a language you have to constantly read the subtitles for.
Yes.
It's easier when it is in English, and especially for an English-speaking audience.
Yes, for us, the Scandinavian languages kind of work. I mean, Icelandic
would have been hard. Finnish would have been hard. Even harder than Icelandic, I'd say.
There weren't a lot of Finnish characters, though.
No.
But the Danish and the Norwegian and the Swedish obviously works for us, because they're similar enough. But also, for the rest of the world, no.
And you also kind of want all the characters to speak the same language, so what do you pick? Well, English, because that's the most widespread language. So it's not spoken by the most people, but it is a language spoken throughout the world.
Also, it's an American production, right?
That too, yeah. With mostly English-speaking actors, so
yes,
yeah. So that's also my one little gripe, but I understand why. And in any other movie, I wouldn't complain. It's just that Robert Eggers is he's so particular when it comes to authenticity that
you can
this
forgive.
time he had to kind of give up a little bit, because it's language, and language is hard to get around.
Yes.
So that's why I might give it a 4.5 out of 5, but I don't think that's enough actually to. I think I'm going to stick to my 5 out of 5. This was powerful filmmaking, and not just because it's literally depicting power and strength, but the fact that it's soaked into every aspect of the film. The music, the landscape, the story, everything is just, it's power.
Yeah.
And then the fact also that it's not just a simple, straightforward revenge story. There is layers to the characters. There is nuance. There is complexity. It's not just Conan the Barbarian. Even though Conan the Barbarian has a lot more complexity than people give it. It's not just Arnold Schwarzenegger anymore. But we'll talk about that on Monday.
Yes.
So, yeah, I thoroughly loved the movie. I think it's the best movie I've seen this year. And I don't think I'll see a better one this year. Not the movies I know I'm going to see this year, at least, that I prepared. Like, I don't see one being better than this.
We'll see. Only the future can tell.
I guess. Yeah. But anyway, that's going to have to be it.
Yes.
This turned out to be a long episode.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think so.
Yeah. But I had a lot to say, I suppose.
We'll have probably more to say in the Monday episode, so check that out on Patreon on Monday.
Exactly.
Or if you're seeing this or listening to this way later in the future, just, check out the Patreon.
Yeah. Patreon.com/don'tmakeascene.
Links everywhere.
Links everywhere. Just $3 a month. You'll get that extra episode every week. You'll get early access to my other podcast, the Nicolas Cage podcast I talked about.
Sometimes this podcast as well.
Yeah, exactly. This, you will be able to listen to this because we're recording this on Thursday the 14th. But you are at the earliest listening to this on Saturday the 16th. So
unless you're a patron.
Yeah, but if you're a patron, you're listening to this on Thursday. So that's also, we're releasing them early sometimes. But there's also monthly commentary tracks. I'll tell you this on a free episode. We're doing the Evil Dead 2013 remake this month. Why?
Yes.
I'm not sure, but we are.
I don't remember. We had reasons.
There's some vague reason for it, but still. So you'll get that as well. And of course, you'll be supporting our independent podcasting endeavors. We're not part of any network or anything. Not yet.
And you have the opportunity to choose what we talk about.
Yeah, you just tell us in the comments or on Patreon or any of our social media, which there's also be links to. And since you're paying, we'll oblige you and talk about it. So please check that out. But other than that, check out all the free episodes. They're available on all podcast platforms. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, all of them. Everywhere you can listen to podcasts. So check out the free episodes there. In particular, check out our Green Knight episode.
Yes.
Similarities to this. And we'll see you in the next episode when we're gonna talk about what?
I don't remember.
We're going to talk about Ghostland. We're doing an oldie.
Right. We're bringing it back to a movie that we've talked about every now and then. Actually.
Yeah, we mentioned it a bunch this year. That's why we want to actually do an episode on it. So we're doing Ghostland, and the follow-up Patreon episode of that is The Tall Man. So both Pascal Laugier movies. Yeah, that's right. So stay tuned for that. But until then, thank you so much for listening, and have a good one. Bye. The spoilerCast is part of Please Don't Make a Scene. It's hosted by Tobias and Rebecca Widén, produced by Tobias Widén. Executive producer is Annika Widén. Direction and sound editing by Tobias Widén. A big thank you to all our supporters over on Patreon for keeping this show going. Laura Kinney, Mom and Dad.